Hey everyone, welcome back in to a new episode of the Cherry Heat Check. This is a unofficial New Mexico Lobos basketball podcast. Happy Friday, January 23rd here as the Lobos sit in a three-way tie for second place in the Mountain West. And I'm Ricky Thompson, your host. As always, I'll be taking you through the Lobos preview here as they get set to face the Nevada Wolfpack, one of the teams that also sits at 6-2 in the Mountain West under Coach Steve Alford, former coach of the Lobos. As we know, we'll see what kind of welcome Coach Alford gets back to the pit in this big retro night matchup. And the theme for that retro night will be none others than the 90s era, the most successful era of Lobos basketball under Coach Dave Bliss, where they went to the tournament 7 times during that decade. I believe Bliss was coach for 11 years, spanning across the 90s, and just a magical time to grow up and be a Lobo fan, as they were going to the tournament, sending players to the NBA, and were all part of the national rankings for many, many years of my childhood. Got to go to those Lobo camps, as I mentioned before, and interact with the players, and it was a special time. So I'll talk about some of those memories at the end of the show once I get through the preview of Nevada here. But the Lobos only coming off 2 days rest before they have to face the Wolfpack, defeating Fresno State on Wednesday night in a game that got ugly late, but holding on to win 83-74 over the Bulldogs and Vance Wahlberg's team that much improved this season. They not having their leading point guard, Zayon Collins, got a big game from freshman Deshaun Gorey, 31 points, 14 rebounds for Gorey, and he was really doing whatever he wanted in a game where Fresno State really turned it on in the second half and wouldn't go away. And of course, the refs were a problem as well. I'll dig into that one a little bit. First, want to look at the standings. San Diego State going down 2 nights ago to GCU, a final foul call where Miles Bird blocked the shot. I believe Tay Simmons of the Aztecs reached in on the GCU player as he drove, giving him 2 free throws. BJ Davis missing critical front end of a 1-and-1 for the Aztecs before that. So San Diego State with chances in that game, but GCU coming off wins now against Utah State, who has 2 losses as well. And now GCU, the newcomer, defeating the Aztecs, giving San Diego State their first loss in conference play as they still sit up at first place. So Lobos have to really be kicking themselves even more, thinking about that San Diego State opportunity that they had, a game they could have won and had those chances to win. Lobos could very easily be tied for first place at this point in time, but many games left to play, um, including that one this weekend with Nevada. But looking at the other key games in the Mountain West, besides the one in the pit for Retro Night, Utah State, after losing 2 in a row, goes to Fort Collins to face Colorado State. San Jose State, who's still undermanned, goes to Wyoming, who is also struggling. And a big matchup of San Diego State goes to Vegas to face UNLV. UNLV team who's hot, coming off a couple of wins, including a win in Logan over Utah State this past week. And then the struggling Air Force Falcons go to Boise, and GCU will head to Fresno. After Fresno coming off that 9-point loss to the Lobos, where they did actually outscore UNM in the second half of that game there. Lobos really kind of running out of enthusiasm, I think, late. Coach Olen even picking up only his 3rd technical of his career in that game. So Lobos looked sharp early, getting into the paint whenever they wanted. Again, Hall playing well, Albury driving the lane with ease most of the game. To Javis Miller, his defense has really picked up over the stretch of games where he's been playing in Chris Howe's absence, where he was not even seeing the court before that. Um, he playing a much more physical brand, even though in the he hasn't been shooting the ball particularly well in the last two. Gotta like the effort from Tajavis off the bench, to go along with Tannet's 15 off the bench as well. And Tannett at this point is just pretty much a sixth starter on the team because he plays as many minutes as the starters and usually finishes the game. And they said on the broadcast he is the leading freshman scorer under 6 foot in the country to go along with the other two freshman sensations. Bouillon had 10 boards, 12 points, about his average on the season. And then Jake Hall, again, 6 rebounds. He's been hitting the boards well, 16 points for Hall in this game. So the three freshmen all averaging double figures on the season, the only three freshmen in Division One to do so on a single team. And this only being the second time, though, all year where all three have actually scored in double figures in the same game, the first being surprisingly against Nebraska, I believe. Antonio Chol chipped in with his 8 points, mostly all shots coming from the perimeter, and Coach Olen was asked in the presser about that by Nick Nunez of the Pit Press, and Coach Olen said he's fine with the shots Chol is taking, and they're not going to change anything there. Too many fans discussed, and I think we know what Chol is at this point. I've been expecting more as many have, but I think we just have to recognize he is the sharpshooter that will not go to the hole often. At this point, his defense is kind of fading, in my opinion, as far as the his effectiveness on that end hasn't been getting as many blocks and the ball as effectively as some of the other players on the team. Luke Hop, though, as we know and love, doing everything, 9 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds for Hopt. Just a all-around leader, someone that Olin said he never wants to take out of the game. Again, making the most of his starting role, capitalizing on Chris Howell's absence, who seems like he will still be out another 1 or 2 weeks with an oblique injury. And JT Rock in this one getting sparing minutes, 8 minutes, 1 rebound and 2 points. Must just not been a matchup that Coach Olin liked him in this one. But looking at the Lobos on the overall season, because I don't really want to dwell on this Fresno game too long, as Lobos were in control most of that game. Of course, referees taking over at the end there, calling, I believe, what was it, 23 fouls overall on the Lobos. Lobos, as I promised you, would cause many, many turnovers, causing 21 turnovers in all for Fresno State, and Lobos setting records in the steal category with 18 steals overall in the game. So, ugly game. Was hoping it would end. Seemed like it never would, but Lobos still come out on top. And looking at Evan Maya's kill shot statistics, which are 10-0 runs, and just how the top three teams in the conference really sit in that category. Eric Olen, very aware of this stat. Of course, many others, as he has the ultimate basketball mad scientist, as we're seeing. Lobos coming in with 18 overall 10-0 runs on the season and only giving up 3 of those runs to their opponents. So very good numbers in terms of going on runs and not giving them up. And I think that just comes obviously from the way that Coach Olin, you know, uh, drills into these guys how he wants them to play and be consistent on the court. But I think his overall demeanor rubs off of not getting too high or too low when they go down. And we even saw it against Nebraska where they went down double digits early, but climbed all the way back in that second half and made it interesting into the final minutes, even without Albury. So only giving up 3 of those 10-0 runs themselves on the season, just really showing how consistent they've been and really have never been out of any game or looked, too terrible, maybe outside of their offense in that Boise game where they just could not make a shot. So kill shots, something Coach Olen, definitely liking here. Lobos really leading the way in the conference, with 1 of those per game on the season and only conceding under point 0.2, themselves. Looking ahead to this Retro Night game, which will be a chilly one as the Lobos host the Wolfpack coming in at 14-5 on the season under Coach Alford, who of course left the Lobos many moons ago for UCLA, to many surprise and most Lobos fans disliking, as he seemed like he was going to be set. Of course, moved on to UCLA, had success there as well before heading off to Nevada. Of course, reuniting with Coach Noodles, Craig Neal, former Lobos coach as well, who took over after Alford, and now he is an assistant again under Alford, at Nevada. And just one side comment for me, I think the biggest thing at the time, on top of losing Alford to UCLA during that era, was also losing Bryce Alford, to UCLA, who of course went along with his father, and Lobos, of course, instead getting Cullen Neal, son of Craig Neal. And I'm not saying Cullen Neal was a bad basketball player. He was one of the most prolific scorers in New Mexico high school basketball in his time and played 4 years of college basketball. But adding Alfred's son to the team would have been a much better addition to the team, as they still had Alex Kirk, Bairstow, Kendall Williams, and that team was loaded. So, on top of losing Alfred, also losing his son to UCLA, I think is something we forget. But now Alfred at Nevada, in non-conference, they did play Santa Clara as well, losing by 16 at Santa Clara, losing to UC Davis the game after that. UC Davis, a team that will be part of the Mountain West next year, losing 4 to UC Davis early in the season. And then later, once conference play started, they've really turned things around for the most part. All these transfers have started molding and their chemistry building together. Losing really only the 2 games I think that they were expected to lose, being to San Diego State and then at Utah State, a game that they were in most of the game, losing 71-62 at Utah State a couple of weeks ago. And since then, they've played Air Force, winning 81-66, and then defeating a lame duck San Jose State team 87-54 this past Tuesday night. So they look to be coming together at the right time. Corey Camper leading the way offensively so far for the Pack, over 16 points a game, shooting over 43%, 4 rebounds to go along with that offense, and Tayshawn Comer sharing the backcourt duties with him. He scores about 14 points a game, 4 assists on the season so far. He turns it over, though, about 2 times a game, but he's shooting 37% from 3 on the season. Elijah Price, coming over from Fresno, he being one of the best defenders and rebounders in the conference. Look for him to battle with Bullion down there, probably block a few of his shots, frustrate Bullion. So Bullion also has to be careful on the defensive end, not to get in foul trouble, as Elijah Price goes to the foul line quite a lot. And he also shoots very well there at 75% on the season to go along with his 12 points and 9 rebounds. So he really having a fantastic sophomore season, staying in the Mountain West. Other key players being Chuck Bailey, Von Weems, Peyton White. Von Weems, I believe, a Division II player who was one of the leading scorers at that level last year. He now averaging about 7 points a game for the Wolfpack and playing key minutes now as well. Looking overall at this offense, who's 80th in efficiency and Ken Palm, they really like games with a slower pace, coming in with the average possession length of over 17 and a half seconds compared to the Lobos, who have about a 16-second possession length so far in the season. But Nevada is a team that does shoot the three ball well, but they do not shoot a lot of them, coming in as one of the lowest percentages of their shots coming from three out of any team in the country, but they shoot an unbelievable 39% from deep. So when they have their opportunities, they will make them. And the same can be said at the free throw line, where they get to the line at one of the top 15 rates in the country, and they shoot it at over 76%. So they're looking for a more ball control game, um, not a team that's going to turn the ball over a lot, willing to run the shot clock down to look for a good assisted field goal and knock them down from three when they do have to shoot them, even though they don't like to do so. So Lobos obviously again looking to push them outside, cut off passing lanes, not allow them to get into the paint, which is going to be a challenge with Price down there. But look for the Lobos to push Nevada outside of their comfortable spots on offense, push their offense outside of the key so they have to shoot longer shots than they want. Lobos defense continues to crawl up in Ken Palm efficiency, now rated 25th in the nation as of the time I took this screenshot here. But Nevada defense really not as strong as their offense at this point. Look for New Mexico to be able to get to the foul line and into the paint. Also, I think they will have their opportunities to have open threes if the Lobos are willing to make the extra passes. And Dayton Albury is able to make accurate passes off of those dribble drives, make smart decisions. I think Lobos will be in good position, but Wolfpack always give New Mexico a tough time. Two close games last year, including a 4-point game in Reno. And then, of course, Nelly Jr. Joseph saving the day in the pit, where he picks the ball up pretty much off the ground from the free throw line and drills the jumper to give the Lobos the 1-point victory last year. And I believe what was the 1,000th game in the pit. So look for more drama on Saturday night in this one. Lobos will be favored, of course, at home, going for their 23rd straight victory at home overall for the program. Eric Olen pressing the right buttons right now. I expect it to be a close one, but I think as long as the Lobos can stay out of foul trouble, expect the Lobos to win by a couple of points in a close one. And as I mentioned a couple times here, it will be retro night for that Nevada game, as the Lobos will be honoring the 90s era, the greatest era in Lobo history, with the likes of Charles Spider Smith, the leading scorer in program history, of course, Kenny Thomas, who is now very involved with radio, podcast, media for the Lobos, he being the second all-time leading scorer on the Lobos going to the tournament all 4 years of his career. Clayton Shields, all-time leading three-point shooter for the Lobos, playing alongside Kenny, I believe, for 3 of those 4 seasons. Of course, the late, great Greg Brown in the early 90s getting to the tournament, playing with a freshman, Charles Smith, against Virginia. And then, of course, Dave Bliss, the one that really orchestrated it all, having Luke Longley in those early days going to the tournament in Longley's senior year, and then really keeping things rolling in the 90s as just kept acquiring talent and key pieces And down the stretch of the 90s, some of my key guys here that I got up on the screen, Kevin Henry, sharpshooter, one of the best three-point shooters in history. And to the far right here, I got Damian Walker, who was actually a transfer from TCU, who played with Kenny Thomas for a year. And then 1 year after Kenny, Damian Walker was a great forward who I really enjoyed during his time. And then Lamont Long, he was one of my favorite Lobos. Got to go to Lobo camp and see him in action, have him watching us play along. I believe Coach Fraschilla was the camp I'm remembering the last year there of the 90s as it went into the next era there. But Lamont Long, just one of my favorite players. And to the other side here, next to Coach Fran Fraschilla, who had only one season, I believe, that started in the 90s, ended in 2000. The first year the Lobos were in the Mountain West. I got my man Marlon Palmer, who was a great point guard on the Lobos for about 2.5 seasons before he left the program after not seeing to seem to see eye to eye with Fran Fraschilla there. So these are just a handful of my favorite guys. They were all larger than life for me at the time. Didn't go to a lot of games in person. Was lucky enough to be there for the Royce Olney shot against Utah, probably the most memorable sporting event that I've still been to in my life. One of the loudest, most electric moments, probably moment that made me fall in love with basketball as a young man, and something I'll never forget. So many good memories through the 90s there, watching those teams, going to a few games, getting to be part of those basketball camps, and really looking forward to the uniforms they'll be wearing, a gray with a red and white trim, kind of an updated version of those 90s uniforms. As you can see, most of them had a New Mexico across the front. The ones they'll be wearing this weekend will have a Lobos with an actual Lobo logo on the front of the jersey as well. So hats off to the athletic department, creative department, whoever is putting this all together. It should be fun. So I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, is geared up for this game, and I will check in with you on the next Cherry Heat Check.